Good morning, everyone. It's Miss Norman again. So this week for math, we're going to be working on comparing numbers. I'm going to do a video for today, Monday, and also on Wednesday. And then some of the other days I've found some fun YouTube videos and songs that reinforce comparing numbers. So I wanted to start on this page because what we have done in the past is we worked on comparing numbers by looking at sets. So if you look at this problem, this is something that we've been doing. We can count in this one right here, and we see that we have 3 flowers. And then we can come over here and we can count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flowers. And we know that 7 is greater than 3, or we could say that 3 is less than 7. So that's what we've been doing thus far when we've been comparing numbers and comparing sets. So in the fourth quarter, what we're trying to do is we're trying to move away from the sets and focus more on the numbers. So today we're going to talk about how we can use manipulatives to kind of help us think about it. And then later this week, we'll talk about how we can use a number line. So for this week, let's look at 8 and 6 and let's compare them. So one way to do that is to kind of visualize in your head and think, well, if somebody's giving me cookies or candy, do I want 8 pieces of candy or do I want 6 pieces of candy? Normally I want the one that's more. So we try and visualize it that way. Another way is to kind of think of which one's closer to 10, which number is going to be bigger, closer to 10. And then when all else fails, we can definitely break out manipulatives. I have pennies at the bottom because that's one manipulative that you guys, I'm sure, have lots of at home. You can also use cotton balls, buttons, pasta, cereal, goldfish, anything that you have that's small and easy to count and move around. Legos is a great one. So let's look at that. If I have the number 8, let's move 8 pennies in there. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pennies. And then if I have 6, let's move 6 pennies over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that I can visually see 8 and 6, I can see that 8 is greater than 6. So we can say 8 is greater than 6, or we can say 6 is less than 8. Let's look at our next problem. We have the numbers 4 and 6. So let's start by trying to visualize that. Which one's going to give me more cookies, 4 or 6? Okay, now let's try and think of like a number line. Let's think of 0 to 10. Which one is going to be closer to 10? And then we can also move it out with some manipulatives to see if we can visually see it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pennies here, and this is our number 6, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I can visually see that 6 is greater than 4, and 4 is less than 6. So all of our work this week is going to be looking at 2 numerals, 2 numbers, and determining which one's greater or which one's less, or if they're equal, if they're the same number. So we have some different games and activities to do that with, and what we want to do is start getting away from having to use the manipulatives to visualize it and being able to kind of see that picture in our head, see 6 in our head, see 4 in our head, and visually determine which one's greater without having to make them. But we're not quite there yet, so this week we're going to work on using manipulatives but slowly pulling that resource away. So for your activities for today, you have a couple different options. I have given you some dot cards that you can print out and use. You could also use a deck of cards like the bicycle cards or Uno cards, or you could very easily make your own cards. So what we're going to do is you're going to draw 2 cards and you're going to compare the numbers so you can determine which one is greater or less. If you're using the dot cards, what I would like to see is that you not only compare it, but then you also write the number so that we're getting practice looking at the numeral. If you're using a deck of cards or Uno, it's going to be a lot easier to just look at the number. but also have some pennies or pasta or goldfish around so that if we're looking at the numbers and we're not quite sure, that we can build those sets with a manipulative. And same goes if you're going to make your own cards. You can put the number and the set on there to make it a little easier, but that's up to you. Our practice today is just going to be looking at two different numbers or sets of dots and determining which one is greater, which one's less, or if those are equal numbers. Because this is going to be my only video for the next couple days, I'm going to go ahead and explain tomorrow's activity as well. So for Tuesday, again, we're going to be using manipulatives, but we want to move away from those manipulatives and start just looking at numbers. So I gave you some ideas for manipulatives right here, okay? And you have two choices. You can either print this work mat that I have found, or you can just get a piece of paper and draw two circles on the paper. You can do this outside and draw two circles on the sidewalk. You can get creative with this. You can use the carpet, maybe use some tape to make a big circle on the carpet, whatever's going to make this more fun. So I would suggest having about 20 pieces of whatever you're using. So if you're using pennies, have about 20 pennies out at the most. Because what happens is we tend to get really, really big handfuls, and then we are doing too much counting when we really want to focus on the comparing and contrasting. We want to try and keep those numbers under 10. So what you would do is grab two small handfuls of manipulatives and place one in each hand or each circle, and then you can either orally state it or write it out which number is greater and which number is less. So more just practicing looking at groups of objects and comparing. And what I would love to see is us working on writing those numbers. So if you're counting over here and you have, let's see, 4 here and 6, or sorry, that's 5 there, maybe writing out the number. So we can then just practice comparing the numbers. We can see visually that 4 dots is more than 5 dots. But now let's look at the number so we can start seeing that 4 is greater than 5. So I hope you guys have a great couple days working on comparing numbers. Remember, if you have questions, you can email your teacher or you can dojo message your teacher. And I will be back on Wednesday with some more activities and talking about how we can work a number line into it.